So we're going to graph a cosine function. The only thing that's really tricky about this at all is that in order to figure out what our b is, which affects the period, you have to factor it away from the x and factor it out because it also affects the horizontal shift or the phase shift. So the midline of this graph is up here, is up at 1 because that's the number that's by itself is like our vertical shift. So it's shifted 1. The -2 in front is the amplitude. It also tells us that it's reflected because of the negative, but the amplitude is 2. The period is changed by the 2 in front of the x. And period is always 2 pi divided by b. In this case, b is right here, it's 2. So the period is pi. And the phase shift is also affected by that too because you need to factor it out before we do anything else. So if you had 2x plus pi, you have to factor out the 2. And that would be pi over 2, because that way when you multiply it back, you have 2 pi over 2, which is just pi. So our phase shift, which is like our horizontal shift, is pi over 2. And since it's positive, it's actually pi over 2 shifted to the left. Now, keep in mind that negative, rather than cosine starting at the top, making that shape, it's going to start at the bottom, go up, and then back down. So we're going to draw in our vertical shift first, our midline at 1. So there's our midline. That amplitude is 2, so that means we're going to go 2 units above and 2 units below. That's where cosine will max out and also minimize. The phase shift is pi over 2 to the left, so that means cosine starts, which we said is going to start at the bottom, pi over 2 units to the left. So negative pi over 2 is going to start at the bottom of the graph because it was a -2 cosine, so that means it starts at the bottom rather than at the top. And the period is just pi, so that means when it goes pi units, which is from negative pi over 2 to positive pi over 2, it will do its entire cycle, which means it'll come back to where it started. Now, the way cosine works is in the middle of its period, it will be at the other extreme. So in this case, instead of being down at the bottom, it's going to be up at the top, at the middle of the period. And then halfway between those 2 points, it'll be at the 0 of the function, so at the midline. Once you've drawn one period, it's pretty easy to continue that pattern. One mark to the right, it's back in the middle. Another mark, it's up top. Another mark, middle. Another mark, bottom. Middle, top. And you can keep it going the other way also. Middle, top, middle, bottom, middle, top. So there's all of our points. You just have to do your best to draw the curve now. something like that. Okay.